Hello and welcome to another week of Sambo iRacing. We are back in the brand new BMW M4 G82 GT4, and if you think that is a mouthful, wait until I tell you what series that this track guide will be useful for. So it'll be useful for the GT4 Falken Tyre Challenge, the Production Car SimLab Challenge, and the BMW M-Power Tour, all of which will be using this combo, although this, I have to point out, is the fixed edition, so it's the fixed setup here, so nothing special about it. It is the absolutely as it comes fixed. I have hopefully been able to put together a fairly decent lap. If you are new to the channel, what we do is we do a hot lap, and then I do a breakdown lap where I show you all my markers and stuff like that, and then we go to a chase cam without any commentary, and then a final run through from the cockpit with the driving line on for those that want it. Okay, enough of that, let's start it. Whew, okay, let's go. Over in fifth gear, looking for the bridge. That's our braking marker, trailing it off down to fourth gear, down to third at the apex, feeling for the grip, trying to stop the traction control from kicking in, over into fourth gear on the right hand side, little trail down to the apex, leaving it in fourth gear there, trying to make the track as straight as possible here, cutting the corners, looking for just before the 50-yard marker, down to fourth gear, down to third, again trailing it off all the way down. Very slippy exit mid-corner here. Really having to feel as if there's an egg underneath the throttle pedal. Now for the tricky hairpin, turn 5. Down to fourth gear, down to third, down to second at the apex, getting on the gas over to the right hand side, up to third. Little dab of the brakes, trail it off, cut the corner, get on the power. Nice wide entry here into turn 7, cutting it on the inside, exiting nice and wide. Up to fourth, leaving it there. And now we're going to go down to second gear here, get over to the left hand side, up to third gear. I found leaving it in third was fastest for me. Let me know if you're finding it any different. Still tricky on exit there. Little cut, little lift in fourth gear, back on the gas, final corner, down to third gear, cutting, and always making full use of the track. And over and across the line in a 134.498. Now, what I have to say is it shows there that is lap 0, but it was actually my 12th lap, so I was a dozen laps in here. First time in this new car, the new M4. Really liked it. It is a lot more of a handful, I tend to think. It's certainly more tricky than the previous one. Anyway, let's start the breakdown lap. Well, this is frustrating. I've just done the full guide lap without having recorded it. Let's go again. So first braking marker, Dunlop Bridge up ahead here. As we get there, I'm going to jump on the brakes. Now, I know some people will look and say, well, you're using the ABS here. Well, yes, if I was doing endurance racing, I would be braking earlier and I'd be braking less. However, in a 15-20 minute race, given the 15-20 minute stints that I was doing in the car here, I was still getting my fastest laps towards the end of a 15-20 minute bit. So for the sort of races that we're looking at, it's not going to be a big issue. Anyway, down to from fifth gear down to fourth, we've got the majority of the speed wiped off in the straight line here. Dropping it down to third gear, we're trailing off all the way down to the apex, down to third gear. As we exit the apex, we're building back up on the throttle. You can't just flatten your foot on it. You do have to feel for the grip because there's so much torque in these cars. Over to the right hand side, up to fourth gear, and then just as we're getting over to the grass, we're going to dab the brakes up to about 30%, and so not a great deal. Leaving it in fourth gear, and as you see here, I'm already getting back on the throttle at this point now, so that as I start exiting the apex, I'm back up to nearly full throttle. Get up to full throttle once I straighten the car up here on exit. Cutting these corners. Now over to the left hand side, and what we're looking for is midway between the 100 and the 50 meter board here. And as we get there, again, I'm going to jump back on the brakes. Same thing as before. On the length of time that we're going to be racing, it's not actually going to do too much damage to your tyres to be on the ABS. I'd much rather not have them on there. So down to fourth gear, trailing it all the way down to the apex into third gear, And now as we're on the apex, we're going to start building back up. Now this is a really, really slippy corner, mid-corner here. So if you try and get on full throttle a bit too early, you're going to be soaring your wheel back and forth. Next marker is the 100-meter board on the left-hand side. So as we get there, same thing again, wipe off most of the speed in a straight line, holding it down to 4th gear, down to 3rd gear. So just as we start turning into the corner, we're going to start trailing it off just to keep that weight over the front wheels so that you're still gripped up, down to 2nd gear. This is a bit of a slippy corner on exit, so be wary getting back up to full throttle, up to 3rd gear, over to the right-hand side, and just before you get there, going to dab on the brakes up to about 40%, trail it off again, leaving it in 3rd gear, looking for that grip. I'm going to slightly cut there, get back on the gas, exit nice and wide. There's no off-track here as long as your left-hand tyres remain on the track. And then once we're midway across this access road on the right, I'm going to dab the brakes again up to about 40%, and again same thing, trailing it off down to the apex, getting back onto full throttle. I could have exited slightly wider there, up to 4th, looking for the 50-meter marker on the right hand side, and as we get there, I'm going to jump on the brakes, same thing again, down to 3rd, all the way down to the apex in 2nd. Once we get off the brakes, we're straight back on the throttle, only holding it about 50-60% here until I straighten up. And once I've got my wheel straight, that's when I can give it the full throttle, straight up to 3rd gear, little dab of the brakes, and I just hold it there around 15-20%, leaving it in 3rd gear. When I did drop it down to 2nd, I was just finding I had far too much oversteer around here. If you're making it work in 2nd, by all means, you do that. So back up on the throttle, and even in 3rd gear, as you can see here, I'm having to work the steering wheel to get that grip. Up to 4th gear. Now we're just doing a lift here for turn 10, and we're going to cut the corner. So we're going to cut the rumble strip, but we're going to not go over the yellow line because the yellow line is the off track that gives you a time penalty. Up to 4th gear. And then just as we get to the end of the rumble strip on the left-hand side, I'm going to dab the brakes up to about 75%, and same thing, down to 3rd gear, trail off the brakes. As soon as you're off the brakes, back on the gas, looking for a nice exit, nice and wide. As long as you're not on the sand, you're fine here. And there we have it. Ooh. Right. Now for the chase cam. Listen to that exhaust. Right, final time with the driving line on from the cockpit. As always, thanks for your support. I've been Sambo iRacing, and I'll see you guys in the week. Cheers.